little deer jump over, like the height of my head over a fence. I was like, there's no stopping that deer.
Now, have James, I think he's in your
I
ward,
just went onto the city
to meet again today about the deer population.
benefits
Man,
insurance.
I haven't had a flower.
Where do you live?
I haven't had like a year go by where at least I didn't have some sort of infiltration on my garden or like something. Yeah, that's cool.
From, so they only paid $982.
It looks like there's only white players on this board.
Yes, I knew there was some strong message there somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, I have 6 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. If everyone could please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry, I stepped on your foot.
And Christy, could you take roll call, please?
Sure.
Nacarado,
Yes.
Critelli,
Present.
Pappenfort,
Here.
Fontana,
Here.
Stevens,
Here.
Martin,
Here.
Mayor Shore.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Okay, and next up is the consent agenda. Questions or comments on the consent agenda? It looks pretty brief tonight.
Mr. Mayor, I move to combine and approve the consent agenda.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Martin, seconded by Councilmember Pappenfort. The motion is to combine and approve the items on the consent agenda. Further conversation?
Stevens,
Yes.
Critelli,
Yes.
Nacarado,
Yes.
Fontana,
Yes.
Pappenfort,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
motion passed.
Great. And next up is citizen comment. Do you want? Oh, that's okay, thanks. That's okay. Thanks. Okay. Okay, great, awesome. Sarah Green.
Hi, y'all. Thank you for being here and for all the work you do. There's a lot happening right now and always.
Do you
but-
just mind just introducing yourself?
My name is Sarah Green, and I just represent, I'm part of Latinos Unidos, which is not an official organization, but it's a group that has met regularly trying to create space for immigrants and Latino, specifically Latino immigrants in our community. So, but also just a concerned citizen, and I wanted to bring this up. And this is, I know this is something you're already talking about and thinking about, so I don't mean to duplicate in any way. But just want to share that our already and very quickly for our immigrant community, the town is changing. I've spoken with a number of families who have stopped taking their kids to school because they're afraid, and not just because they're afraid of what might happen in school, but just the transport of walking, the possibility of walking to school and getting found in that process. So the safety even in getting there is an issue. There are families who've been, many of them who just will not go out now. They won't leave their house. They keep curtains shut. They just don't want to be a sore spot in this process. So gathering is not very realistic. I mean, there's some who feel like they have the paperwork needed, but even still feel nervous about being like it's not enough to prove, or that somehow the government's going to switch on them. And so we have a pretty high percent. I mean, it's estimated around 11% of immigrants in our population, but I don't know exactly currently how accurate that is. We have a lot of our construction, stucco, a lot of our cleaning is done by immigrants. Of course, we have restaurants. We have a lot that happens and continues to happen because of immigrants in our community. So just to end this, I guess what I'm asking is just for awareness on the city's part, but then also what, and it sounds like we have put out something regarding that, which I just found out and haven't read yet. But kind of what is our stand as a city on that, and what policies can we do to help protect those who live here and like make this city move and happen. And just most of us hopefully know a few immigrants in our lives and how important and real their stories are of being here and how much they love it here and support our community. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Sarah. And just so you know, Councilmember Nakarada will be speaking to this towards the end of the meeting in her council comments. So thank you for bringing this to us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Dave La Rochelle.
Dave La Rochelle. Yeah, I just want to bring to the council's attention, I've had a inclusionary housing unit at 711 Holman Court. It's been in my possession now for about 20 months. And it's been in some form, the MLS has been up for sale that entire time since 5/11/23. And I have haven't had any luck selling it. And I got a $3,500 a month construction loan on it. Well, so, yeah, I just want to know if there's a chance that I could maybe pay some in lieu of, like was originally offered at the beginning. There were 14 units, and back then it was every 8 units you had to offer an inclusionary, and I volunteered the second one. Although it wasn't 16 units, it was only 14 units, and I kind of wish I hadn't done that. So anyway, just a quick rundown. Inclusionary housing would allow me to sell it at $464,000, and at 6.8%, the mortgage payment would be $3,411 a month. I've had it listed right up to recently for $389,000, and I haven't been able to sell it for that. And if I rented it, I could only rent it for $960 a month, although my mortgage payment's $3,500. So that's 20 months at $3,500. I'm out $70,000 on it right now and counting. And if I sold it at $389,000 like I was trying to, I would take a loss of $46,000 because I have a mortgage payment of $435 on it, and so that would bring me up to a loss of about $116,000. And yeah, it's again, I'm sure it's a great program. But this unit particularly was to match the other units that I was selling for full price, and it's probably overpriced to be in, and it's yeah, it cost me too much to have in this market, and yeah. Anyway, just would like some help.
Thank you. Appreciate you bringing this to us. There is in front of you the more documentation from him on that. And as I mentioned, we will be discussing this later, but thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Todd.
Yeah, absolutely. Do we have anyone online this evening?
No.
Okay. Very good. Then that will take us to new business and an update from Congressperson Petterson's office.
All right, I got to switch my screens really quick.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for allowing me a moment of your time to share some updates. Congressman Petterson, so far so good. Can you hear me so far?
Yes, yeah.
Great.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, likewise. Congresswoman Petterson is currently at home with her newborn son, Sam. The family welcomed Sam a little over a week ago, and that leads me to my first update outside of the family. There, it's that the Congresswoman's still, the staff are still working in the offices. All three of them, the Canyon City one that I staff, the Lakewood, the DC team as well is hard at work. We're still accepting appropriations requests. We're still, putting feet to pavement on connecting with people. And then one of the other efforts that the DC team is focused on is also seeing to it that more signatures are gathered on a discharge petition, which would be in an effort to get the proxy voting measures, the resolution through to a House floor vote. The Congresswoman brought that to the Speaker. The Speaker turned it down, and now we've taken the alternative route of seeing a proxy, or excuse me, a discharge petition seen through. So if we get half the House's signatures on a petition, we can have that that debate on the floor and see the proxy resolution voted on. It would allow new parents who are members of Congress a short window of time to both be at home with their child and still contribute their vote and represent their voters in the House. There are some screens that I've now misplaced. That's what there are. Okay, here we go. There's another act called the Babes Act, which would allow parents to transport breast milk with them while in the airport while flying, so that the TSA has guidance and direction on how to handle that, and still remain in compliance with the rest of their specifics. There are a few elephant in the room issues I want to address here momentarily, but before I do, I want to talk about a legislative success recently passed out of the House. Was the Fix Our Forests Act, which included the Post-Disaster Reforestation and Restoration Act, which was introduced by Congresswoman Petterson and a congressman out of North Carolina, Chuck Edwards, that would help communities impacted by natural disasters recover and rebuild more resilient to future threats through the reforestation and restoration efforts. A portion of that, an amendment rather, to that Fix Our Forest Act includes low Earth orbit satellite technology being utilized to observe these fires in their infancy before they're producing enough smoke for people on the ground to be able to see, so that we can intervene in those things early. But real quick, before I jump into like I said, these other topics, are there any questions for me so far?
Any questions at all thus far?
Okay, very good. The office has fielded well over, I think, 300 calls in the last several hours. Concerns, ranging from loans and grants, and people's access to personal identifiable information, the concerns about Treasury activity, and the list goes on. As I'll touch real quickly on those grants and loans that were high on everybody's radar here a couple days ago. Yesterday, was it? It's already been a few days. While that injunction is in place that has paused the freeze on those loans and grants, allowing those to continue for now, the Congresswoman is deeply concerned about how that could impact critical services that so many Coloradans and citizens of Salida rely on. So our focus is going to be to work with state and local officials to learn what that impact would be like if the injunction were lifted later, and we will continue to provide updates when we learn more as to the activity at the Treasury Department and Elon Musk. The Congresswoman is deeply concerned about what power the president has given Mr. Musk and his team to access the Treasury Department's payment systems, and she's trying to do everything she can in her power to fight back against that and exploring legislative options to prevent unelected billionaires like Elon Musk from accessing sensitive data. If you have federal workers in your community that are experiencing hardship or may experience hardship or simply need to reach out to somebody they're welcome to do so through our office, and we welcome their thoughts and concerns over the phone or email or what have you, but whatever they're comfortable with. That's all I have for updates. It's, kind of a sobering end of my portion of this, but happy to still take any questions if you have them. And I'd like to just stay on and hear more updates. I'll stay off camera, but just hear about what you all have going on.
Any questions before we move on? I appreciate the update. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council. I appreciate your time.
Okay. Next up, and this has been a long time coming, is the approval of release and settlement agreement between Plaintiff's Town of Poncha Springs, Tailwind Group LLC, and Full Matters LLC, and Defendant City of Salida. And I just want to thank everyone for all the work that went into this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be presenting this evening. Our city attorney is not available. So first order of business in this area is the approval of the release and settlement agreement. So in 2023, the town of Poncha Springs, along with 2 developers, brought a lawsuit against the city of Salida regarding ordinance number 2023-09, which imposed an emergency moratorium on accepting, processing, and approving applications for connections to the wastewater system for properties benefiting from the Poncha Springs interceptor and affected by its capacity limitations, and declaring an emergency. Throughout the process, 2023, 2024, and leading into 2025, city participated in various mediations with the plaintiffs and were able to reach the settlement that is attached to your packet. The Town of Poncha Springs Board approved this settlement at their last meeting, January 28th. So we are bringing it forward to council for their approval as well, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have questions for Christy on this? I just want to say thanks for all the behind-the-scenes work that you did with their administrator. I think that's a great example of how government is supposed to work, so thank you. Yeah. That'll take us to discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the release and settlement agreement between Plaintiff's Town of Poncha Springs, Tailwind Group LLC, and Full Matters LLC, and Defendant City of Salida, and conditionally approve the 2 sewer line extension and connection agreements with the developer plaintiffs, subject to final approval as to form and completeness by the city attorney and public works director.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Catelli, seconded by Councilmember Fontana. Excuse me, the motion is to approve the release and settlement agreement between Plaintiff's Town of Poncha Springs, Tailwind Group LLC, and Full Matters LLC, and Defendant City of Salida, and conditionally approve the 2 sewer line extension and connection agreements with the developer plaintiffs, subject to final approval as to form and completeness by the city attorney and public works director. Further discussion?
Critelli,
Yes.
Davenport,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Fontana,
Yes.
Nacarado,
Yes.
Stevens.
Yes.
The motion passed.
Great. And well done. And then next up is Resolution 2025-05, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Salida, Colorado, approving First Amendment to intergovernmental agreement for transfer of sewer system between City of Salida and Town of Poncha Springs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In 2010, the City of Salida and Town of Poncha Springs entered into an intergovernmental agreement allowing the city to take the wastewater from Poncha Springs, and it laid out a number of parameters within that IGA, some of which were very confusing, and they did not line up. They were contradictory, which kind of led to where we ended up in 2023. Throughout the lawsuit litigation process and within the terms of the settlement and release agreement, the IGA is being updated as well to clarify some of those positions so that both the Town of Poncha Springs and the City of Salida have clear understanding and direction of where opportunities for more communication are, and where we would be increasing system development fees and kind of that process there. So this clarifies a lot of this language. It comes from the lawsuit. Again, the town of Poncha Springs approved this reinstated IGA at their last board meeting, and we're bringing it to you to do the same.
Questions for Christie on this? You obviously explained it very well.
I just feel like we've been talking about it for a long time, so if some question has not been answered
Not
yet.
an aspect of this we haven't
I know,
agonized
so if I'm not giving enough information, let me know, but I feel like we're all here.
Got a little PTSD happening.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve Resolution 2025-05, approving First Amendment to intergovernmental agreement for transfer of sewer system between City of Salida and Town of Poncha Springs.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Pappenford, seconded by Councilmember Nacarado, and the motion is to approve Resolution 2025-05, approving First Amendment to the intergovernmental agreement for transfer of sewer system between City of Salida and Town of Poncha Springs. Further discussion?
Nacarado,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Pappenford,
Yes.
Fontana,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Critelli.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay. And next up is Ordinance 2025-03, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Salida, Colorado, acting as a governing body of the water and wastewater enterprise of the City of Salida, lifting the temporary moratorium imposed by Ordinance 2023-09 on the acceptance, processing, and approval of applications for connection to the wastewater system for those properties benefiting from the Poncha Interceptor and affected by its capacity limitations, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Once again, Ordinance 2023-09 imposed an emergency moratorium on development in Poncha Springs for properties that were benefiting from the Interceptor. Now that we have reached a settlement agreement and have updated the IGA, the City of Salida is able to lift that moratorium. We can do it as an emergency again, which does not require a second reading and public hearing. So if the city, we need 3/4 of the council, so we need 5 council members to approve this emergency ordinance. And if you do, it will go into effect right away, lifting the moratorium.
Great. Questions on this? And that'll take us to discussion.
You got it.
Yeah.
You nailed it.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve Ordinance 2025-03, lifting the temporary moratorium imposed by Ordinance 2023-09 and declaring an emergency.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Martin, seconded by Councilmember Fontana, and the motion is approval of Ordinance 2025-03, lifting the temporary moratorium imposed by Ordinance 2023-09, now that all parties have agreed to be part of the solution to fund and finance the necessary sewer infrastructure.
Pappenford,
Yes.
Critelli,
Yes.
Nacarado,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Fontana.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay.
We just like.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Finally.
Yeah. 7 years later. Okay. I'm going to sleep well tonight. Thank you. Next up is Resolution 2025-06, a resolution of the City Council for the City of Salida, Colorado, amending the 2025 fee schedules.
This is a fee schedule that was discussed at length yesterday. I do have a point of order. I'd like to ask you to make a change in the actual fee schedule. I forgot to change the title of it, which mentions an effective date of January. I need to change that to February for system development fees. It's going to take us a little while to get the monthly service fee up and running within our software. I would like to give us until March, the March bills for that.
March 1st or?
Yeah, so March for, February for system development fees and March for the monthly service fees would be the effective date on that. If you don't mind changing that. I want to emphasize that the bottom line impact, there were a lot of numbers that were talked about yesterday. The last few slides showed you what the impacts would be for different rates, I mean, for different levels of water usage. And for those residences that are using minimal water, smaller homes, apartment dwellers, and those who are very studious about conserving water, they're going to see a very minimal impact to this. I also want to point out that we have been on a path of increasing our water fees 7%, I'm sorry, 8.4% per year. And under this new schedule, it'll be 7% per year. So that percentage always sounds like a big amount, but it usually amounts to a couple of dollars increase for most citizens. You asked yesterday, you people are so good at picking up on the details, and we were also stumped, about apartment units being classified as commercial property. And back in July of 2021, council approved a resolution to treat apartment buildings as a commercial based on their line charge because it lowered the rates rather than charging each unit for the service fee each month and the system development fee when it was set up. So it's a way to keep the apartments more affordable. And that was approved back in July 2021.
Thanks for that update.
And that's all I have for you. The fee schedule is there. I know it's a lot of numbers. We've looked at it at length. We think, you know, it's a different structure than what we're used to. You're gonna see more tiers on the service fees. And then also important to note that there is a system development fee specific to Poncha Springs that matches the IGA. And each year, the system development fees that developers pay, that's not anything that the citizens pay, it's that developers pay when they start a new project, will go up by 20% until it completely matches the Poncha Springs rates.
Questions for Amy on this?
Will we need an amendment then for those, for the February and March implementation?
Will we?
I think it would be a good idea.
Yeah.
I didn't catch, so February is system development fees and March
Monthly
is
service fee.
monthly service fee. Thank you.
I just wanted to follow up on what Amy just said about the way that we have been charging system development fees on the apartments. Under the new fee schedule, the plan would be to actually revert back to charging them on a per unit basis. But because of the reduction in the per unit fee, you're not going to see much of a change in the actual per unit cost on the construction of those rental apartments. So in other words, instead of charging by the line size, it is going to be by the ERU for apartments, all apartments, market rate or affordable.
That's a new way of doing this, yes.
But if it is an affordable unit, it will get the affordable unit price, the legally restricted.
And is this a discussion that's been had with some of our developers? And
I am not sure if that has been discussed. This was part of the analysis that went through Ehlers and the result that came out of it. But I will say, we actually spent some time today doing some of the calculations for apartment size or apartment projects of differing unit sizes. And I will say that in probably most cases of the types of apartments we have seen built around here generally, there will actually be a cost savings over what it would cost if it was done by the line size.
Okay.
As that economy of scale could change potentially as the unit number goes up, and you might see additional costs with it. But based off of the type of apartment development we've primarily seen around here, you'll see either the exact same price or really close, or potentially some cost savings with it.
Okay.
Thank you, Bill. His office handles system development fees. I handle monthly service fees.
Yeah, because it looked like in the presentation there were two categories, right? The market rate under residential at a rate, and then low income apartments under a commercial.
Yeah, we were a little concerned or confused by that as well, because we've never really had a specific classification for low-income apartments. It's just been if it's legally restricted, it gets that legally restricted price. We believe that it was put into the commercial category because the intention is to still charge the usage rates
Okay.
according to the commercial
Right.
amounts that are shown in there. So it's still spread out amongst all the units as opposed to charging each unit
Okay.
separately for the usage.
There's a handful of apartments currently that get one bill versus.
Amy, make sure you're talking to the microphone.
There's a handful of apartments that get one bill. We get a payment from the owner of those apartment buildings. I'm not sure if they distribute it out to all of the units or not, but we do not bill individual units, and that'll continue going forward.
Yeah, I do know, the Housing Trust does use that model as like just low income. Just where I'm at in Two Rivers, our water is just all one unit and we have like different meters for it, but we all.
I
pay
think
the
that
same.
is one of the examples, right?
Okay.
Good to know.
Well, I don't have any questions, but I want to say that I appreciate all the work that staff and Ellers put into this.
Yeah.
You've been paying attention to council over the years. You understand what our intentions are. We want to conserve water. We want to protect the rates and keep them as low as we can. And you've done a beautiful job of that and untangling some of the tangles that we created with that intention to make affordable housing be affordable, you know, without hurting other people. And so, brilliant work.
I do think, and I'm going to give Ellers most of the credit for that, I do think that they are the experts in that area, and I think that they had very good suggestions for us and are bringing us to best practices. It is a fairly significant change in the way we've done things before, so we might have to make tweaks going forward as we find areas where it doesn't work how we expect it to, but it's been well studied, and we feel pretty optimistic that it's going to go smoothly.
And I'd like to repeat for whoever wasn't watching last night, we're going to be facing plant replacements because plants have a life. Not all communities are doing that, but I think of us as the council that does not kick the can down the road. And that's very, very important. We have to accept, you know, in our personal life, our car's going to wear out and we're going to have a plan for replacing that. The heater's going to blow up, we're going to have to replace it. At the city level, when we have to replace something, it costs millions of dollars. So we have to pay attention and do the right thing by getting rates appropriate. So then when it's time to make our move, we're in a position to make that move.
And I would just add to that, both the water and wastewater are enterprise funds, and they run like businesses, and you can't go into deficit spending.
Right.
So it's just an important thing for people to be aware of.
And I'd add that I appreciate the eye towards affordability and the built-in mechanisms towards affordability that you all thought about in here.
And I'm sorry, we really did have to kind of rush to get this ready for you. Bill is saying that we should also take out the footnote 3 on the fee schedule. So when you make the motion, if you could remove footnote 3.
Okay, I don't know if any amendments.
But
what was the first amendment that you wanted to make, Amy?
Changing the effective date from
The title.
January 2025 to February for the
Why
SDF
does
fees and
that
March
need-
for the monthly service fees.
It's February,
No, the number 3, why does 3 have to be out?
what's that?
No, footnote number 3 was what was approved via the resolution in 2021 that Amy was talking about, which put all apartments, the
Okay, so
the
you're-
SDF charges underneath the commercial line sizing.
Okay.
The intention is to remove it from the line sizing, put it back under the residential multifamily category, charge it per unit, per ERU.
Okay.
And so number 3 then becomes
Or
unnecessary.
So we can just remove it, okay.
So we remove it from commercial fees up in the top column, that number 3 that's there in parentheses, and then remove the note itself.
Makes sense.
probably change the rest of the note numbers.
Yeah.
So they're sequential.
Okay. So now the question, well, any other questions before we go to discussion? Does anyone feel comfortable? I think, we don't, you can just, I move to, amending the fee schedule to include and the things we added, I think will suffice. If that makes sense.
At least we're not changing numbers on you.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve Resolution 2025-06, amending the 2025 fee schedule to include February for system development fees, March for monthly service fees, adjustments, and to take out all things pertaining to footnote number 3.
Second.
Okay, so a motion from Councilmember Catelli, seconded by Councilmember Pappin-Fort, and the motion is, and this is where it gets tricky, is to approve Resolution 2025, amending the 2025 fee schedule to include February for system development fees, March for the monthly service fees, and to remove footnote 3. Further discussion?
Critelli,
Yes.
Fontana,
Yes.
Pappinfort,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Nacarado,
Yes.
motion passed.
Thank you. Thanks for all
Thank
the
you.
work.
Yeah, thank you.
And that takes us to council reports. Councilmember Martin, you're on the spot.
I wanted to share some of my takeaways from the CAST retreat that several of us went to this past Thursday and Friday. So for those who don't know, CAST is the Colorado Association of Ski Towns, so it's an opportunity for all of us who live in similar communities to get together and just discuss what's going on. Housing was the most talked about issue, surprise, surprise. As well as the lack of data collected in order to produce or to conduct any studies to be performed. I would like to urge the Housing Trust and the Housing Authority to make sure they are gathering all the information they have for successes and failures, so that we and other communities can learn how to approach this crisis, as well as increase our program awareness. Another takeaway was realizing that the relationship that we have with Monarch is vital to our community. And again, this was a Colorado Association of Ski Towns. So all of these communities, though their relationship looks very different, Breck is where we were at. It's right there. The resort is right in town. We have some mileage provided, which kind of gives us a bit of a buffer. But I think moving forward, really focusing on that relationship with Monarch can really just help to liven our community in the winter time. Again, because we are so dependent on sales tax, we need to make sure we are doing things we can, like new traditions for New Year's Eve, maybe creating more of a relationship with Monarch. An idea that was mentioned, so in Breck, they have a pretty pricey parking garage, and in order to help pay for that, they have a lift ticket tax on the lift tickets to go skiing.
Which are so cheap to begin with.
Right, it's like $250 a day. Yeah. But that's, I think, maybe something we could look into, or just talk about with Monarch as we maybe can start to develop more of a relationship with them. Having them kind of have a bit of a stake in this community with housing, because we do house a lot of their workers. And yeah, I also got a chance yesterday to attend the board of our county commissioners had a community leadership roundtable. It was really great because there were 60 plus community members online. I want to thank Aaron Minks, Patrick Ortiz, and Justin Kurth. They were all representatives from state officials who were there. I just want to report that I will be closely watching the county moves and how to deal with funding as we're moving forward, federal funding, and hope that that will guide our steps as a city so that we know also how to move forward if federal funding is cut, and we do need to think about what our priorities are as a community, for what we can fund as a city and what that looks like. Because it's a big task for them to take on, so we will try and follow suit, hopefully. But yeah, that is all for me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Nacarado.
Thank you. Just to expand on the Colorado Association of Ski Towns Conference, I also enjoyed the presentations and conversation. We heard a whole lot on housing, and I especially enjoyed a presentation from Sarah Walsh, who is a Chaffee County resident, formerly of Colorado Mountain College, about regional initiatives and making sure we're just not having tunnel view on the local, but also looking to those regional initiatives for help. We also had a heartfelt roundtable discussion on our communities throughout Colorado, rural communities impacted by the potential deportations on immigrants. And, one of the most important things that came up in that conversation was to not cause any undue angst and panic in the immigrant communities. So making sure that we're sticking to the truth and not spreading rumors when it comes to that can cause undue panic. They suggested reaching out to our police departments and just getting some education and outreach out there. So I was pleased that our staff had already drafted a press release, and I'm gonna go ahead and read it. I found that it did answer all my questions. The Salida Police Department has received many questions about the presence of immigration and customs enforcement here in Salida. As many are aware, ICE is a federal agency with overlapping jurisdiction across Colorado. Since the beginning of this year, we have not had any ICE officials conducting raids in Salida. The enforcement of United States immigration laws falls under the federal government's jurisdiction, not local law enforcement. The Salida Police Department is responsible for enforcing municipal, county, and state criminal statutes. If our department encounters someone who has violated a municipal or state criminal statute, the person will be processed and transported to the Chaffee County Jail if applicable. If a person is eligible for release, then that person will be released regardless of immigration status based on Colorado law. Colorado state statute prohibits jail or detention center custodians from holding an individual based solely on an administrative ICE detainer. Additionally, law prohibits a police officer from providing an individual's personal information to federal immigration authorities. The Salida Police Department is focused on maintaining the safety of our residents and guests. We will continue our everyday mission by treating everyone we encounter with dignity and respect. And that's from Chief Russ Johnson with the Salida Police Department, and it's going out to all the press sources tomorrow. Thank you. I've got a couple more things. Speaking about housing, I was at a Housing Authority Executive Committee meeting today. I was happy to hear our interim director speak about our housing ecosystem and making sure all of our housing entities are working in a complementary fashion. I'm also really excited to see Salty Riggs get appointed to the Housing Authority by the county commissioners today. And that just brings me back to our City of Salida appointment. I really have been thinking about this element of gossip that was present with our decision there. I think that we need to be really conscious as leaders of this city that we're not using secondhand information to make our decisions, especially when there's firsthand information presented to you from something like an interview committee. We will erode our resilience as a council if we continue to do that. And it will drive some very big wedges in this council, and I fear what that might do to our ability to lead the city. So I hope we can do better if a situation like that should arise again. I did hear some council members speak from firsthand experience. I really appreciate that. I hope that everybody, even those who are not always making decisions up here, will be aware of how gossip can play a role. And on a lighter note, I did get to go to a Dark Skies presentation with a 6th grade Destination Imagination group this afternoon, and they were really great. They're very excited about Dark Skies in our community, and they will present to the Sustainability Committee, I think at our next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Stevens.
Nothing for me tonight.
Councilmember Critelli.
Yeah, I'll just share one of the big things that I learned at Colorado Association of Ski Towns was it looked like this shift, a paradigm shift of how we address housing and affordable housing at that, and metrics that we use, and the shift from AMI to more of a holistic cost of living equation. Areas like Snowmass have kind of led the front on that, and I intend on reaching out just to see how that is going. I think that's, it's kind of when you equate cost of living, and we're not just talking about housing anymore, and it's so easy to get tunnel vision when we're looking at just units, and it's based on this seemingly unattainable goal of number of units, when really what we're also talking about is childcare, it's healthcare access, it's it's groceries, it's public transportation. It just really helped kind of take the blinders off of me, just to hear what other communities are doing, the way that they are tracking data and compiling that data. So it was just very enlightening, and just a reminder that we have to keep on our A game when it comes to that. And also, a couple of events happening in February, because friends of mine had discovered that not a lot goes on in February, and we are hoping that Febtastic Funuary is the first of many, okay? This is just rudimentary, just a kind of a crawl through businesses where businesses have agreed to make a hole of mini golf, and it starts at the Other 9 on Highway 50 on February 8th, starting at 1 o'clock, so this Saturday. Really hoping that this is just the first of many that kind of resembles something of a Salida Days. I mean, we have the most locals here, not as much going on. And I always hear that a lot of these events are for tourists. This is something that is just for locals, by locals. And to tack onto that, the weekend after, Rocky Horror Picture Show at the Steam Plant. And I will be doing a bit of cardio on the stage for 6 whole minutes. So if anybody wants to see me sweat and belt out a tune, you can do that, and I'll be totally dressed up, and it'll be fun, and you can laugh.
I want to hear you belt out a tune. I don't want to see you sweat.
Right. Well, it's unfortunate because my cardio is not the best at this time of year. Again, yeah, just trying to have more events in February's for locals, by locals. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And Councilmember Fontana.
Oh, my turn. Okay, so first thing, I would like to recognize David LaRochelle. He brought something very important up to the council, and I was hoping that we could bring that up again. His case is very unique, and he agreed to build an extra unit for affordable housing, and he only was designated to build one in that case, and he built the whole extra unit, and now he is paying for that unit still a year and a half later. So I was hoping that I could get a second to have that.
Second.
Thank you.
Sure.
That's what I was asking.
And just to be clear,
Yes.
the direction is for staff and the city attorney to look at how we might redirect and allow for Mr. La Rochelle to pay a fee in lieu instead of having that as an inclusionary housing unit.
Correct.
Just want to make sure.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you very
please.
much.
Yes. He was in contact with myself, and so I was hoping that that could be brought forward. So the next thing is, it kind of addresses the Poncha sewer line. I just wanted to say thanks to everybody for that. In this community, we have concern for things, which means we have a connection for things. We are all one community. I'm happy that we all work together to resolve that. I know that was hanging over prior council's heads and Mayor Shore and staff for a very long time. So I just wanted to say I appreciate that. The next thing is, as I was listening to Councilmember Nacarato's comments, I do think that each of us up here does vote with a lot of education. We do our research. We are not just voting with emotion or hearsay or gossip. And I definitely respect each of you up here and your decisions. So if there's any place that needs to, we have to know that each other is voting with education as we go forward. So that's all for me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then you skipped over me, so I'd like my turn.
Wait a minute. Didn't you?
No, you skipped
Yeah, it
over
threw
me.
me off when it came from.
Did I really?
Yeah, you did. But
Well-
you've never done that before, so you're doing a really good job because you.
Up until
already did.
now. I just blew it.
That was so perfect.
So,
C minus.
Councilmember Pappenfort, you are on the hot seat.
Okay, and so I want to agree specifically.
And my apologies.
With the last couple of things that Councilmember Fontana brought up. It was great sitting down with the Poncha board and getting this resolved and moving forward as a, as a whole community. That feels really good to get that behind us. And I respect everybody's decisions on council. I know that we bring a lot of knowledge and personal observation to it. And so I'm never voting on rumor. I'm voting on what I see. And then I had the opportunity to visit the new condos on M and Third. And the Councilmember Martin was there as well. And they are adorable. I really appreciate what was done there. And the particular unit that we were in, I'll be glad when that realizes its full dream, which is, where one floor is for the grandparents and one floor is for the, a family with children. And so I don't know how many years it'll take before they get that particular configuration in there. But I thought, that's how it used to be, multiple generations living in the same space. And as the 1% holds 45% of the wealth now, we're gonna see more of a return to multi-generations living in single homes. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Yeah, I just had a few things this evening. First off, I wanted to say how much I respect and enjoy working with this council. And I know what happened a couple weeks ago was hard, and but it was an exception. It's not the norm. I mean, I remember witnessing other governing bodies where it was twice a month type of deal. And so clearly lessons to be learned, but I just want to thank everybody for their service. I know we're put into positions where we have to make hard decisions and we don't always agree, but I really think we're strong enough as a board that we can move beyond this and just continue to communicate with one another. And I'm just really grateful to all of you, so thanks. Secondly, I've always known how much I love living in this community, in the small town feel. And I had the best example and reinforcement of that today. I was out running errands. I was at Ace Hardware. I had money for this upcoming trip that in an envelope. It fell out of my pocket, and within 10 minutes, I got a call from John Fontana, who tracked me down, repatriated me with the money. I don't think that would happen in a big city, but it really speaks to this community, and specifically, it really speaks to the culture that's been created at ACE. So I'm really, really grateful, and you should be really, really proud, Councilmember Fontana, for the crew that you've assembled. You certainly made my day and my trip that's coming up next week, so thank you. On that whole note of community and everything, Councilmember Nacarado spoke to, and then we had a citizen, Sarah Green spoke to it as well. There is a lot of fear out in the community right now, and we are a community, so anything that we can do to support folks that are living in fear, let's just come together and provide that kind of support. And what that looks like, I think will depend upon the individual and on us, but just remember there are people suffering and in a lot of fear right now, and let's really try to come together and support those folks. They do so much important work in this community, and they're an important part of it, so thank you on that. And then finally, just regarding Poncha, I am just so grateful after 7 years to have this behind us. And I want to shout out to City Administrator Dune, who, as well as staff, but for getting together with the Poncha administrator, getting it out of the hands of the attorneys. We all live in this community. I sometimes think there are these artificial distinctions between Salida and Poncha because we shop at the same places, we recreate in the same places, and I just am super appreciative of that. And I will own the fact that I got frustrated at a point in time too, and I could have been doing more with communication on this, but I am happy that Mayor Skang and I did get together about a couple of weeks ago, and I think there's some really important lessons to be taken out of this. But really, really happy for all parties involved. And that is all that I have. Anything from our treasurer this evening?
Not tonight, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have an attorney on the line, or?
We do not.
Okay. How about staff?
I'm just happy to be here tonight.
We're happy to see you here. Yes,
Feeling
yes,
better.
yes, yes. And all that would remain is a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Anybody opposed?